Good evening, dear Chabura. Going through Kol HaTorah Kula live with the Rambam and only one Perek a day. And we're looking forward to jump into Hilchos Mezuzah, where the Rambam is going to introduce us to the mitzvah that guards every single Yid. As we know that Mezuzah is Rosh Tevis, Shin Daled Yud is Rosh Tevis, Shemer Dalsis Yisrael, the guardian of Jewish doors. And the Rambam actually is going to point out that one is not allowed to look at it like a segula, some good, gives him a charm, gives him luck, rather, Rahman al-Tzlan, it's a mitzvah. But it still has that effect. Halacha Aleph of Perek Hey. How should one write the mezuzah that we have fixed our doorpost? Koisvin Shtei Parshas. First of all, it's one piece of parchment, as I'm going to say, and there are two parshas on it. Shema, and then right under it, V'hayim Shema al daf echad, in one column, B'yiriya achas on one piece of parchment, not two pieces sewn together. But Oisel revach mel mata, v'revach mel mata, that have margins for above and below, at least kimay chatzi tzipoyer and half of a nail. Now, if he wrote it on one piece of parchment, but it's in more than one column, now, providing that when he writes it, it's written square. That means both of the parashas they're all written square, and not kizanov, which means it starts narrowing in, like my eagle, or like the ksubis that are like a egg, like a kubo, which is like a pyramid. The im also ka'achas me'ela. If that's the shape psula, it invalidates the mezuzah. Now, ksova shloyala say there. What does it mean? How do you write it shloyala say there? For example, shehigdim parsha la parsha. He wrote vayim shema before shema and the like. Psula, it's invalid. Ksova b'shnei unlike Torah. Ksova b'shnei oiris. If he wrote them on two different parchments that he connected. Even though he sewed them together, mamish seams with the gidin and chveis, doesn't help psula. Now we're going to see a very interesting scenario. A person had a sefer Torah that had the parsha Shema, Vayim Shemaya, and he decided, what, the sefer Torah is going out of business. It's already getting rubbed out, but this parsha happens to be still standing. So what does he think? He says sefer Torah Shabbalah or Tefillin Shabbalah or Tefillin, parshas the Tefillin that got rubbed out. So he says, let me cut this piece out. Let me use it as a mezuzah. No. It's Kedusha Chamura coming to a Kedusha Kala. Sefer Torah and Tefillin are higher than a mezuzah. You can't cut off margins or extra cloth that's at the end of the Sefer Torah and turn it into mezuzah. Ain't kaisin al mezuzah. Ain't marida Kedusha Chamura. Kedusha Kala from more stringent Kedusha. You can't lower the sanctity by using it for a mezuzah, which is below the level of the Sefer Torah. Halacha beit. Mitzvah lases rabos bein parsha shmal b'ayim shamaya. The indent at the beginning of parsha Shema and b'ayim shamaya have to be the following. That we do a parsha psucha is when it starts at the beginning of a line, because it starts a new inyan. It's open towards the future. Mashen and stuma is it's closing the parsha before, and that starts with an indent. So it's a mitzvah to make there's a revach between parshas Shema and Vayim Shemaya like a parsha stuma, which means it starts in the line with an indent. It is still going to be kosher. Why? Minatayra, they're not near each other, and therefore they don't have to be stuma. Stuma, as I said, indicates that it's continuing to. That stuma indicates it's continuing the inyan that was discussed earlier. The Metzias is that even though maybe in Sefer Torah it is written a stuma, if I remember, but the Metzias is that it's not really explaining. They're not near each other, and therefore it could be written as a psuch at the beginning of a line. Now, however, one has to be very careful with the tagin shaba, which are the spikes, the crowns on the oisius. The Rambam is going to discuss the Kabbalah that he had for which letters get tagin in a mezuzah. Halacha Gimel, Parsha Rishaynish B'Sheva Oisis, that's seven Oisis in the first Parsha of Shema that have these crowns on them. I'll call Ois Mehen Shloisha Zayin. Each of the letters we're going to mention has three crowns, three spikes on it. They went Shin, Ayin, Shel Shema. The Shin and the Ayin of the word Shema. Nun Dinavshecha, Utrei zayin shel mezuzahs, on both zayins of mezuzahs, each one has, like we said, 3 spikes, 3 crowns. Utrei tesin shel tetafos, the 2 tests of the tetafos. And Parsha Shniya, in the second Parsha of there are 6 oisias. I'll call Achaz man on each, call Ois man, each one of them has Shloisha Zayin and 3 spikes. Beilan Gimel Shel Ganecha, or Trei Zayin Shel Mezuzahs, both Zayins and Mezuzahs, Trei Tests Shel Tetafos, both Tests of Tetafos, V'tzadik Shel Ha'aretz, the lying at Tzadik of Ha'aretz, V'loi Asa Tagin, if he did not make any Tagin, Oisha Hoisid by an Igara Mehen, he added or took away the apostle. This doesn't invalidate the mezuzah of these tagim. It's, as Rambam said, the tzarich le'zoyer. The ksava shloi b'sirtut. However, sirtut is critical. It must be. You must have it. If you wrote it without sirtut, without scraping in lines before you started writing, you were not careful with which letters are meant to be mole, which letters are chasa, which already Rambam enumerated. Oisha hoisif mibifnim. So you added a random letter, you added a hey in the middle, whatever it is. You invalidated the entire mezuzah, and it needs to be written kisidra, as we said, side the parshas and yeah. Now, unlike a sefer Torah that you could scrape. Halacha dalet minag pashut. It's the widespread accepted custom. Shekoyses ala mezuzah b'chutz, on the back side of the parchment of which you wrote the mezuzah. Between the when you finish Shema, it starts by Shemaya, so it's towards the bottom of the top third of the parchment, in the place where on the opposite side it's going from one pash to the next, they would write the word Shindal Yud. The aim is a half set of Hisham Bachutz. You don't invalidate anything because it's on the other side. It's not the side that calls the shots. It's not the side of the mezuzah. However, and here the Rambam goes out all against those that write on the side of the mezuzah on which you write the parashas. They write Shmois Malachim, names of different Malachim, like Sefer Razil Malach, or Shemus Kedoshim, different names of the Eibishter, Pasuk, or Chasamas, different Psukim, or different signatures and shapes, like a ksuba and all these fancy Haggadahs, the old Haggadahs from Amsterdam, Achleis from the 1500s. He is like those that do not have a portion of the world to come. Why? It's the end of the world. Not only they know the mitzvah, which should be like the Rambam said, should have a nice space, etc. They took such a great mitzvah like Mezuzah, which its entire goal is to point out the oneness of the Eibishter and how the Eibishter is the only power, and how it's appropriate to love him and to serve him. As if this is him, and it's a kameya for your own luck and success, which is like as these nars that as comes up in their nar shahar. So davar mahana like those things that superstitious people appreciate. And therefore, you mamish took the yichud of the Eibishter, mamish mixed it into superstitions and coming about the zachen that indicate the other way around. Halacha hey. Now a separate mitzvah. O mitzvah lichtov al haaretz b'shit acharena. The word al haaretz should be on the last line, obviously, because it's concluding the mezuzah. But as Ram is going to show, it should be either in the middle of the line or at the beginning of the line on their own, but not to end the final shura with al haaretz and alongside the second margin. Whether it's at the beginning of the line, of the final line, in which case they're the only 2 words on the line, or be'emetza shita in the middle. And I'm just going to describe how you write a mezuzah in a way that there's only going to be those 2 words on the final line. All the seifrim, says the Rambam that I know from Fustat, from Cairo, etc., or wherever the Rambam was at that point, to write it in 22 lines. The 22nd line, the last line, only had the words al haaretz on it. If you're writing according to this order, I'll say that I'm going to mention what are the first words on every line, so you know exactly the say that they had the minute to write. Shema, Hashem, Hadvanim, Levanecha, V'shach, Bein, V'hoyam, Mitzaveh, B'chol, Yoira, Esav, Pain, V'shtachabisem, Hashamayim, Ba'avadim, Samtam, Oisam, Baderech, Uv'sharecha, Asher, and the final line, al haaretz. Now, so when you roll the mezuzah to affix it to the wall, So Goyal Noisa, as we said in regards to the tefillin, so from the end back to the beginning of Shema. So when a person opens it, he starts reading Al Seder. When the person, the information, when a person opens it up, he's going to start reading from the beginning. From the beginning of the line to the end, not from the end to the beginning. Now, after he rolls it up, he puts it in the hollowness of a reed, or a groove that he made within a piece of wood. Any type of case that you made, he connects it to the doorpost with a nail. Or he digs it in, and puts the mezuzah into that groove within the door. The Rambam describe limits. It can't be, not every time you dig it in is it so simple. It's a limit to how dig you could dig it in, etc. Before you affix it to all the mezuzah Pesach in the doorpost, Mevarach Tchili makes the following bracha: Baruch Hashem Elokeinu Melech Haolam, blessed are you, the Eibishter, the God and King of the world. Asher Kinshanu says, which you have sanctified us with your commandments, Tzivanu, and you've commanded us to affix them. You do not make the bracha of L'Kvoya Mezuzah when you write it. The entire mitzvah is to affix to the wall. That's the mitzvah, not to write it. Now, it's not like Bahayu. You should have it. Now, Tla b'makel. He has it connected and well connected in a piece of wood or in a reed, and now he puts it on the wall. So that's where it is. But what's the svara behind it? If a guy comes or whatever he's uncomfortable, he'll take the whole doorpost off. But it's not really a doorpost. It's not holding up the lintel. It's just connected it to the door, and the mezuzah is inside this mobile stick. So psula she'ein zukvo, that's not considered affixing it to the wall. We said l'kvoya mezuzah. Now he put it inside the room. That means it's behind the door. When you come into the room, then you see the mezuzah. Lo yasaklum. Okay, it's a sugya. What happens to those glass doors that open and so that's already a different story. But if you put it inside a room, lo yasaklum. He dug in the wall and put it in like a deadbolt. Ram's mamash going to strike like the briach hatichain, which went between the beams of the mishkan. The briach hatichain, or the briach that went through the tabois, holding the wall. It's laying. So basically, he has, this is the mashkaif and the two mezuzahs. He just dug in a hole and slid it in. So it's laying like this in the wall, like a deadbolt that closes it. Parcel, royal, invalidation. Hamik lo tefach. He put it in properly, but he dug it so deep in the wall, it's like more than it's a tefach hand breadth into the wall. Psula. It's not al mezuzah. It's not on the doorpost. It's in the doorpost. He cut a reed and put in the mezuzah, and then he built with this reed. He built the mezuzah and the mashkef, which means there was no doorway here. There was no lintel and no doorpost. He basically took a doorpost, connected, put a mezuzah inside, and then moved it and made this mezuzah. The kids he affixed the mezuzah before there was a door, and now with this mezuzah he made a doorpost. And then it's possible. You first affixed the mezuzah before you had actually the doorpost and the whole doorway. Now, halacha test. Mezuzah sayachid. When do you need to check it? We said in regards to the tefillin, if you remember, that you only need to check it if there's any change on the outside. Otherwise, you can assume that the chazak is the way it was inside. That's the way it is forever. The mezuzah is a different story. Mezuzah sayachid, that it's a private person's. Nivdek is pamayim b'shavua. You have to check it 2 times in 7 years. So every 2.5 years. Every 3.5 years. Mezuzah surabim, if it belongs to the public, pamayim b'yovel. That means every 25 years. Why b'chlal is there chiv to check it? We're also by mezuzah, unlike tefillin, we're afraid maybe it got ripped off, maybe the letters popped off, maybe it got erased. Why? Because it's connected to the wall, it takes on the temperature of the wall, and that makes it easier to rot. The temperature changes have its impact on the letters. Every person's obligated to mezuzah. It's not the mitzvah graman, and therefore I feel nashim b'avodim. A Yiddish he's in a house. He bought a house, or as we'll see soon, what happens if he just is renting. You have to have a mezuzah. To the extent that a child built a tree house, if it has the shear living quarters, we're mechanech the child. It's your house, yeah. You're cutting pot of mitzvahs. You should have a mezuzah. If someone rents a house in chutz la'aretz, or vador bepundak b'Eretz Yisrael, or this is equivalent to somebody just staying in an inn overnight in Eretz Yisrael. He's potter unless he is there for 30 days. So if you're in a hotel for less than 30 days, you don't really put up a mezuzah in Eretz Yisrael. And in chutz la'aretz, even if you rented the house, it means it's your house practically right now. It's not on a day basis. You're also potter until 30 days. However, in Eretz Yisrael, it's different. If you rented a house in Eretz Yisrael, chayiv mezuzah miyad, right away you're chayiv mezuzah because we want you to dwell and come live in Eretz Yisrael. And therefore, the second you live even for one day, we want you to view it as kavua and right away establish mezuzah. Now, I'll find Allah for today. Someone rents out a house to his friend. Whose responsibility is it to ensure there's a mezuzah? It's responsibility. It's called choivas hadar. The one that lives there, it's his responsibility, even though it's your house. A Yiddish house, chayv mezuzah, has the parameters. Still, even if he paid kiviyachol for you to fix the mezuzah, still, if there's no mezuzah, whose responsibility, who gets the avera? It's the person that's living there. It's very interesting. Many inyanim and nigla written on the subject. It's not the responsibility of the house, even though the details of the chrayas of the mezuzah, what makes it obligated is the parameters of the house. But it's the person that moves in and that amount of time that he's there for, that's what makes him chay. He shouldn't actively take it with his hand and leave it with him. He should leave it there. That's providing that he knows there's a yid coming after him. But if it's going to denigrate the mezuzah because a guy's coming living, either the house you rented it from was a guy, or someone that's coming in is going to be a guy. You take it when you leave. It's a sakana, our Kabbalah, to take a mezuzah off a door, and therefore, even if a yid is coming in and it's chayv asadar, you leave the mezuzah. He comes, and after he becomes chayv, he puts his mezuzah, and then you take yours. And I want to thank each and every one of you, those in person and those live online, for joining us in our tremendous chabura of Kol Torah Kol Live. Let us continue enjoying every bit of Torah. Torah Shabbat, Torah Shabbat, the Rambam lays it out before us. And as we learn together with the Rambam and our lead, one Perek a day, a huge yisha koyach to the tech team led by Rabbi Levi Nemirovsky. Have a wonderful evening.